Are you really using only 10% of your brain, and the other 90 are just gathering dust inside your skull? It sounds like a conspiracy against you personally, as if nature gave you a supercomputer and blocked access to 90% of the power. Here, most people believe that the red button of genius is hidden somewhere inside, and you only need the right video to press it. It seems crazy, but neuroimaging shows that even in sleep, almost all areas of the brain are active. They just work like different departments of the army on the battlefield. Or maybe the myth arose because scientists themselves once said so, or is it just a translation error of old research? In the early 20th century, psychologists like William James talked about untapped potential, but they didn't mean 90% of gray matter literally. In 2009, neuroscientist Barry Beierstein analyzed dozens of sources and showed that not a single serious study confirmed the 10% figure. This is where most people make mistakes, confusing the metaphor of potential with the real biology of neural networks. What if the other 90% are really silent most of the time? Look at the fMRI data. Even a simple finger movement turns on the motor cortex, the cerebellum, and the planning zones. It's like turning on multiple servers at once for a single task. A study by the University of Washington has shown that when solving simple tasks, distributed networks throughout the brain are activated. Your body is a battlefield, and every part of your brain is like a separate battalion that gets into position when needed. Then why is the myth still alive if it's so easy to refute? Because he's selling hope, and hope always sounds better than boring neuroscience. In 2014, a study by the University of Florida showed that more than 60% of Americans surveyed believe in this myth despite their schooling. Personally, I think we like the idea of a hidden genius button because it removes the responsibility for daily brain training. And if we really use 100%, why aren't we geniuses every second? Because the usage is not equal to the maximum power, as the car engine is not running at full throttle all the time. Neurons are like wires, and if you run maximum current through all of them at the same time, the system will simply overheat. Studies of brain metabolism show that it already consumes about 20% of the body's total energy at rest, and this is a huge figure for 2% of body weight. But here, most people believe that if we use everything, then damage to any area should not change anything. However, clinical data on strokes show the opposite. Even a tiny area of damage can deprive a person of speech or movement. It's like pulling one fuse out of a complex panel and an entire section of the house is plunged into darkness. The whole brain works, but each zone is responsible for specific functions in this huge orchestra. Or maybe the myth is supported by films where the hero suddenly turns on hidden abilities. Movies like Lucy beautifully play with the idea of percentages, but this is an artistic device, not neuroscience. In reality, cognitive abilities grow through plasticity, and this is a slow process of rebuilding connections as if the city were gradually building new roads. It seems less spectacular, but that's how skills are formed, from music to programming. This is where most people make mistakes, thinking that if the potential is not hidden, then it is pointless to develop. In fact, studies of London taxi drivers have shown an increase in the hippocampus after years of navigating difficult routes in the city. The brain changes from stress, but not because the rest has turned on, but because the connections have strengthened and become thicker like a well-trodden path in the forest. This is no longer a myth, but a measurable fact of structural plasticity. If you've watched up to this point, you obviously want to find out the truth, so here it is without magic and buttons. We use almost our entire brain, but at different times and with different intensity, like a city where neighborhoods come alive on schedule. I personally believe that the real superpower is not in percentage, but in the ability to systematically train attention and memory. And it's more boring than the myth, but it's much more powerful in the long-term game. So do you use only 10% of your brain, or do you live on a full map of possibilities? The answer is simple and at the same time disappointing for fans of miracles. The myth of the 10% has no scientific basis. Your body is a battlefield, and your brain is already working almost at full capacity, allocating resources wisely so that you can think, feel, and act. It was crazy, but now you know more than most people who are still looking for the red button.